what were the challenges associated with this character that most excited you?
Well, she seemed to be very representative of a lot of women at a certain time in their life. And odd that there's no children. If you add the children, she's representative of every woman I know, practically, who are in the sandwich generation, kind of caring for their children, caring for their marital relationship, and caring for their parents as well, which is what's unusual, I think, about our generation, is that we are also caretakers for our parents. And I liked, I thought, great, it's a comedy, it's a romantic comedy. I get to play with that, with the physical humor. And at the end, she's going to do Lear. What, are you kidding me? And I have to figure out a way to do Lear as someone who would be off the streets doing Lear, so she would, make it personal. So there was a lot there to play with. And then she's in the midst of this relationship that has gone very, very south. Her marriage has gone very south. And it's a comedy of errors in that the audience knows something that the characters don't know. And so that's also was fun to explore.
Yeah. And she really is, she's a person in crisis and in transition. And in many ways, it's a transition that we all go through in life. But what I thought was particularly special about it was the fact that being a part of this theater group in this particular production, it kind of acts as some kind of method of therapy to make that transition a little bit easier on her. And do you get that feeling from acting?
Absolutely. Get it out. I think in this case, if you look at her life, she's pretty isolated. It's just she and her husband and her work. And again, other women will go, yes, and then their kids and the kids' parents. But in this case, it's without the kids. So there's an isolation going on. And I think that no matter what crisis you're going through in life, to go through it isolated is just unbearable. And it's the community around us that sometimes we're so distanced from because of internet and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all these other ways that people reach out for validation, that sometimes it's right next door in a church, in your parents' community home, and in this case, in this little theater troupe that is trying to put on plays, which plays were an interesting thing. The director could have written anything. The director-writer could have written anything, Joan. But she wrote theater, and theater is such a dinosaur on some level that it's this rare form of instant community connection. You're in the audience and you're connecting with the actors in a story that's going on. And the origins of theater were about healing. They were church-related or story-related, campfire-related. This is what we did today. This is how we caught the buffalo today. And let's act it out and show you the danger. Let's act it out and show you the humor when caveman number 2 dropped his spear, and how it's all very interesting. We retell the stories of our lives through theater. And so I liked that was where Madeline was finding her life again. I mean, certainly she's of a certain age, and women and men get to a point where they've stopped adventuring. They're trying to make the next promotion. But what is life really all about? What are the adventures of life really all about? And we stop sometimes exploring that. It's scary, I guess, and we don't want to lose what we have for something new. And in this case, I think Madeline pretty much lost everything that she had in favor of something new.
Right, but also, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's this overly dramatic thing, because it is at the same time very funny. But there's such truth in the comedy, and I'm curious, as an actress, is it more challenging to play the truth in a comedy?
Well, once I worked with Albert Finney in Miller's Crossing, and it was the first really big film I'd done. And I said, Albert, any secrets? And he said, darling, I don't want to be the old soldier, but truth is truth. And it's a different proscenium if you're on stage, and it's a large proscenium, or if you're in a little arena stage, as one kind of truth. The same thing is true for the camera. What are the limbs? What is the truth? And I think the nature of a film tells you what kind of truth it is. I don't find it more challenging. In fact, I find it to be more relieving because there's logic to it. And we all know when we recount stories of, oh, my God, and then this happened on the subway, and you'd never believe, we kind of exaggerate it a little bit. Certainly theater and storytelling is slightly exaggerated, but I think that's why Hangover was so wonderful. It was outlandish, but played for truth. If you were in Vegas and all that happened, it would be outlandish. But when you play it for the truth of the emotion, it's just, you just know that in comedy, kind of bigger is or more committed. The higher the stakes, the higher the comedy. And so that's what you have going into it. In this case, it's a comedy of errors. The mistress doesn't know that I know who she is, and the audience knows, but they know something different than I know. And so they're rooting for Madeline, I think, because she's angry, but she's an underdog, and she's also really conservative. So she's in this situation of extreme kind of sexual behavior from Lenora, but covered with grand innocence, which Lenora beautifully brought to the character. And it's fun to see those characters up against one another. So in a comedy, again, you can have the plot truth or the plot, comedy, and then you also have character comedy. And so in this case, Joan Carl Wiggins, the director and writer, got both.
Yeah, and Lenore is fantastic in it, and the chemistry between the two of you just like crackles on the screen. I mean, it's really special. Did you spend time getting to know her prior to shooting?
No, not at all. Anymore in films, there's no time. You're lucky if you get a rehearsal. There's no time. You just jump right in, and actors, I think, are particularly adept at dropping boundaries really quickly and jump in and get to know each other and get close fast and furious.
But it does go back to that question about community, and I guess when you're all in this battle together, whether it be on the stage or on a film set, you do kind of form a very special bond for that particular stretch of time. But is it a hard adjustment to make when the project ends and you kind of leave that family that you've built over months?
Well, I will say I'm used to it. I'm a military brat, so I traveled always and made fast bonds and left people. And this is where the beauty of the internet and beauty of email, you can actually keep some kind of bonds, and you keep the sense memory of how close you were when you were shooting the project. So if I see Lenore, it'll be like yesterday. And I think like any other person in the world, my life is full on a daily basis of my children and their schoolwork and the field trip and the basketball game and make sure she gets to practice and, all of those, the minutia of life, especially when you have kids. So the beauty of really working is it's a momentary escape from all that. And
I would imagine. Yeah. Last question. Just last question, since I know you're pressed for time. I just wanted to ask about an upcoming project or two. Looking over what you have coming up, there's two that I'm particularly excited about, and one is you're doing Parkland.
Yes, I did Parkland. It's already shot. It was written by Peter Landesman and directed by Peter Landesman, who is a New York Times writer. So it has a real journalistic appeal to it, and it is the last few hours, basically, of John F. Kennedy's life. And it's about the movie, about the hospital, Parkland, but also about vignettes surrounding it, the FBI, the Secret Service. But Parkland, which people don't really know, was a training hospital where young doctors went to be trained to be doctors. And once I knew that, just the magnitude of what that event was anyway, the magnitude of JFK's tragic and terrible murder is on top of it, then to be brought to this hospital where they're young, inexperienced doctors. Not that an experienced doctor could have saved his life. It was unfortunately beyond that. But not only did they desperately try to save his life, not but 2 days later, in the same wing, but my character sends him across the hall. She won't do it in the same room. They're trying to save Oswald's life. And it's just like, whoa. When you think about the people, and that's what I think Peter Lanzman was interested, the people behind this were just, Zac Efron plays a young intern. He's a young doctor trying to figure it out, still figuring out how you treat a normal patient in emergency, much less this extraordinary moment in history. And it was lovely. We had nurses and doctors and people, assisting us on set, and some nurses were extras and would inadvertently be actually in the scene saying not lines, but sometimes improvising with us. And one of them, a lady named Nurse Carol, she happened to be an African-American nurse, which was quite poignant because what JFK would have meant to her was heightened because of the civil rights. And she has a little, it may end up on the cutting room floor, but we shot it, so at least we have it in our hearts. She shot a little scene where we were trying to cut some material off of him, his coat off of him, to load him into the coffin, and she just was crying and she couldn't do it, and I'm in character saying, come on now, let's go, let's hurry up, and she's just crying and saying, I don't want to hurt him, I'm trying. And it was just so beautiful, a beautiful look into the normal lives of people who end up being inadvertent heroes in tragic situations.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I read that synopsis and I thought, what a beautiful, because that's the site of such a seismic change and a seismic moment in history. And to hear it spelled out in kind of human terms as you just did, you've sold me on it completely.
Good. Good.
Thank you so much for such great work, and for If I Were You. What a beautiful movie. Thank you for it.
Thank you for helping us promote it. I really appreciate it.